opens up the box and plays the game. He never reads instructions cause they're lame. He's Bowser. He plays the game so badly. His eyes are twitching madly. He's here again so sadly. He's Bowser.
Hello, welcome back. Right, as you can see from the title, I'm today looking at Firebird's 1987 release of Bobble, the classic arcade game. And I'm looking at the versions for the BBC Micro, Commodore 64, Amstrad CPC and the ZX Spectrum. Now, I usually try to play everything on the actual hardware itself, but for the Spectrum version of this, I've had to give up trying to get it to load through MP3. The actual original tape that I bought in 1987 wouldn't load either, so the only option I had was to use Spectaculator. Please don't hate me for that. Now, the goal as ever is just to put the versions side by side so you can see what the differences and similarities are and see what you think about them. And please do shout up with what your memories and recollections are of each particular version. So, without further ado, let's get into it. BBC Micro version coming up first. Okay, like I said, we're going to kick off with the BBC Micro version, purely because it's one I'd never seen before until I got the BBC Micro. So let's fire this up. Gives you your instructions, WE left and right, tab to jump and control to blow a bubble. So fairly crowded keyboard layout there if you know the layout of the BBC keyboard. Obviously it can be played 2-player, but I'm a Billy No Mates and we'll have to play it 1-player. Really nice loading screen there. Very evocative of the original. Right, 1 or 2, Bobble. Gonna have to go for Billy No Mates 1, I'm afraid. Right, let's work my fingers out. Now, I've had to put a bit of card under the speaker grill on the BBC Micro because, as I've said before, there's no volume control on it. So, we all know Bobble, don't we? And the BBC version seems to play quite well, looks really nice, sounds really nice, but it is a bit slower than the other versions, I think. Doesn't break it at all. It's still a really good game. I've lost 2 lives already on the second screen. You'd think I was a huge liar if I said I used to be quite good at this. Yes, I know, I've got to hurry up because the bloke will come. Oh, it's 3 lives already on screen 2. Oh my god. Come on, Baz. This is a record for crapness you're setting yourself. Yeah, you come here. Right, that's that screen done. That was a nightmare. That was a nightmare. But yeah, I love Bobble. Who doesn't? So, as ever, the aim is just to show you what the different versions are like. Not really to say one version is better than the other as such. I'll leave that to you to make the decisions as to which ones you think are the most effective conversions. Come on, get up there, burst that bastard. Oh, here comes the big ghost thing. Not the big ghost. Ooh. But I'm fairly impressed with the BBC Micro version. Bearing in mind it was quite a big game release back in the day. You know, and it's quite sort of late, 1989 I think this is. So fairly late to be hearing, eh? Oh, for God's sake. What's happened there? Nothing's happened there. I got not very far at all. One more quick go on that. I'm really quite enjoying this version of Bobble. Come on. Let's see if I can fare better on the second screen this time. Blasted through the first one. Right. Yeah, I get you. Oh, I jumped instead of Bubble. Blew in a bubble. Alright, yes, that's it. Owned that one. Come on in, next screen please. Oh. Ah, I've done it again. Oh, I'm owning this now. Yeah, does seem to be a bit slower than the other versions, but not bad at all. And I heard ages back, someone being not very complimentary about the BBC version at all, and having now played it, I can't really think why. It's decent enough. Yep, I get you. Oh, no, I've got him. Right, so that's just a quick few minutes showing you the BBC Micro version of Bubble Bobble. Really enjoyable. Let's move on to another one. Okay, so here we are on the Commodore 64 version of Bubble Bobble. Again, well, the reason I'm putting the BBC Micro and the Commodore 64 at the top of the video are these are the versions that I'm unfamiliar with, or have been unfamiliar with until now, and it's just, like I said, to compare each version, see what the differences and similarities are. Now, the Spectrum and Amstrad versions I am, of course, familiar with. Used to play on my mate David's Amstrad, and we'd play on my Spectrum. So those two versions are going to be next. Amstrad and then Spectrum. We'll bring up the rear if you like. Now, like I say, if you're a Commodore 64 owner from back in the day, did you have this game? Did you love it? Did you loathe it? One thing I've noticed is the music on it is absolutely fantastic. It really is great. Now, I've only been playing this a very short while, and I'm going to be playing it with joystick, and if you think I'm crap with keys, you wait and see how bad I am with a joystick. Absolutely wonderful music on this game. So let's go. You know the premise, exactly the same as what I've just shown you. But yeah, this is... I really do like the Commodore 64 version of this. The animation on him when he jumps, look, you can see his eyeballs looking up. I think that's really great. Much quicker screen transition than the BBC Micro version. This sort of seems to spin round to the sort of next level more or less straight away. Which, you know, there was a bit of hanging around on the BBC version. Whoa, that was nearly curtains for Baz there. Moves a little bit slowly, but certainly not in any kind of game-breaking way. But the graphics, yeah, nice and colourful. Nice. I like the blockiness of the graphics on the Commodore 64 version. I know that's a criticism that's aimed at a lot of C64 games, is that the graphics, although colourful, are blocky. But on this game, I don't mind it. Oh, it's going to be death. But this is great. One thing I have noticed that I didn't seem to remember from the BBC version is the bonus letters are sort of popping up, which gives you an extra life or a bonus level, if I'm remembering rightly. But this version is really good fun. I can only imagine it being an absolute blast in 2 players. Of course, Bubble Bobble had its sequels, Rainbow Islands, and I can never remember the name of the third one. Was it? Someone help me out with that, what the name of the third one was. Because I do keep forgetting it. But there's not a lot to not like about the Commodore 64 version of Bubble Bobble. It really, really is great. Oh right, yeah, I've got to press 1. You know, a fantastic job. And you know, I was impressed with the BBC Micro version, despite, like I said, having heard some criticisms of it way back, or some time back, a couple of years back. But I thought it was really, really good, and a good game is a good game. But this, yeah, this is fun. This is Top Banana. I can't believe I just actually said this is Top Banana. Oh, grow up, bastard. Right, come on, you two, pop off your pop. You seem to get more time on this version as well before you get the sort of hurry up notice, and the sort of indestructible ghost comes after you, which than you do in the BBC version, which is good by me. So come on, Commodore Rights, your experiences and memories of... Whoa! Now I noticed that when I went there... I wonder if there's a problem with the joystick, because when I go to the right, it carries on going. So I want... See? I've only just pressed that joystick slightly there, and it went all the way. So I wonder if that's a problem with the joystick, or whether or not it's something that's built into the game. I don't know, but you know, it's not anything worth crying about. But there we go. Baz is dead. Commodore 64 version of Bubble Bobble from Firebird, based on the Taito arcade game. Absolutely fantastic conversion. That I really, really have enjoyed that. If only I could get someone to play alongside me so that I'm not Billy No Mates and can experience 2-player all over again. Right, Amstrad CPC version coming up next. Right, let's get the Amstrad version going. So I want to type run Bubble. Now, these 3 versions that I've done so far, obviously they're all on the original machines, but I'm using modern solutions for them, which makes everything run sort of or load much quicker. The Turbo MMC thing for the BBC Micro, the SD to IEC and Epix flash cart thing from the future was 8-bit for the Commodore 64. Nice loading screen for the Amstrad, and the DDI USB 3 thing for the Amstrad. But when it comes to the Spectrum, I only use an MP3 cassette converter, which means the game loads exactly as it did back in the day. In the 128K version of Bubble Bobble, I seem to remember, used to take forever to load. So we'll have a look at that one next. But like I said, Amstrad version coming up. This is the first of the 2 versions of it I'm familiar with. Now, I am aware that it came out on a load of systems, not just Spectrum and the ones that I'm showing you. It came out on, I know it came out on the MSX, because on an old laptop I had an MSX emulator, and one of the games I had for it was Bubble Bobble, and that version was great. It really was an excellent conversion. So if you're aware of any other systems it came out on, then please do let me know. I'd be interested to hear. Right, let's start the Amstrad version. First thing you notice is, apart from the sort of jumping noise, there's a complete lack of sound or sound effects, music, etc. That does seem to be the only noise in the game, apart from, oh yeah, when you collect something as well. And I can't remember, it's been ages since I last played the Amstrad version. I can't remember. It must have been the Spectrum version, the 128K version I was thinking of, and getting them confused, because I remembered there being the Bubble Bobble jingle, the da 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 da, that thingy. So I've obviously got the two versions confused over time. Clearly the Amstrad version does not have music, but you know, it doesn't break the game, but it does lend an awful lot to those other versions that I've mentioned and that we've already seen so far. You know, right, if I collect the E and the X and spell the word extra, I can get an extra life. Right, okay, so we've finished that screen. It doesn't play badly. The Commodore 64 sprite has a lot more character to it. Obviously I mentioned in the segment of it that I did that when he jumps you get his eyes moving up and down, and a nice little touch I found was that. It doesn't seem to be as fast as I... Again, I must have been confusing it with... maybe my memory's playing tricks on me. It's a bit slower than I sort of thought it was too. But again, you know, it doesn't kill the game. So, Amstrad owners, was this one that you favoured back in the day? Or not? Please, answers on a postcard. Oh, he nearly had me there. Excuse me. Let's have a swig of water while I wait for the next screen to come up. Which it does. So yeah, one of the best arcade conversions that came out for the 8-bit microcomputers back in the day. You see I've got another extra letter there. And of course there were some fantastic arcade conversions, particularly on the Spectrum. You had Ghosts and Goblins, Bomb Jack, Commando, Chase HQ, Wet Le Mans, Enduro Racer. An awful lot of fantastic games. Oh, it's Extend, it's spelled, not Extra. But that's the Amstrad CPC version. I'm going to move on to the ZX Spectrum version now. Okay, see you in a sec. Bye-bye. Right, here we are at the ZX Spectrum version now. As I said on the intro, it's been really a pain in the arse trying to get the Specky version to work. I have a +2B, and I believe there are compatibility issues with that particular model of Spectrum. Anyone in the know, please let me know. It was the Firebird release of Bubble Bobble I was trying to play, but I gave up, couldn't do it through MP3, couldn't do it through using the actual cassette itself, so here I am on Spectaculator. As I've hinted at before, this is the version of Bubble Bobble that I know and love the best, purely because of it's the version that I used to play, and I've really enjoyed every single version that I've showed you today. Here we have the Spectrum version. Obviously there are differences in the graphics, etc., but it moves really nicely, identifiably Bubble Bobble, and of course it's got the theme tune playing in the background on the 128K version only, and it's really adds a lot to the game. As I've said, I don't think any of the versions I've played are bad, and if you were to check any of them out, you would enjoy them. There's not really an awful lot more to rabbit on about, other than to say that, yeah, the home conversions of Bubble Bobble that I've played, BBC Micro, Commodore 64, Amstrad, ZX Spectrum, were all massive successes, I believe, is the best way to describe them. You know, it's not a crap conversion amongst them. Anyone that owned any of the machines back in the day, I think, would have been happy to have the version of Bubble Bobble that they got. But anyway, not much more to rabbit about. Like I said, Spectrum version, please let me know what you think of all four of them when they're put together, and enjoy the rest of the video. Bye. So there you have it, 4 versions of Bobble, 4 really good versions, I thought. I was surprised by the BBC Micro version. Like I said, I'd heard someone had told me that it was very poor. I actually found it really quite playable. The Amstrad version, it didn't seem to be as I remembered it. Like I said, I kind of got confused, I think, with the Spectrum version. I could have sworn the Amstrad CPC version had music. The fact that it doesn't kill the game at all, but the music, particularly the outstanding Commodore 64 soundtrack, really adds a whole another level of atmosphere to the game. So I don't think there was a bad version of Bobble that I showed you there. There may well be some crap versions of them. If you're aware of any, then please let me know. Thanks ever so much for watching. If you like the video, please let me know. If you wish to subscribe, please do so. But if you do subscribe, as ever, please join in with the discussions, because that's what it's all about. Thank you ever so much for watching. Take care. Goodbye.